Hello, hello. This is Gigaschatten bringing you a new series, which is the 10-minute race guide. In the 10 minutes, I will try to give you a hint on the pros and cons of each race and which ships to build and what to trade. Okay, so let's jump to the Federation. As you can see from the overview and then the features for every race here, they have the Federation crew bonus, which at first isn't that great. It gives you some kind of plus, more shields between battles, but they marginally matter. However, this kicks in, and I will come to that later, when you have carriers. The most obvious is they have a 200% taxing rate, both colonists and mining. And one of the hugest and unique features is their super refit. Then drawbacks, they have a 70% mining rate, low-key immunity, and they can clone ships, and they also have quantum torpedoes. Good. Let's go through the ship list. So here's the complete list of ships. And normally, for every race, even if they have like 10 designs, 15 designs, whatever, usually, because some designs are better than others, the good players stick to only a couple of them. The Federation, however, is a little bit different, because almost every ship in their arsenal, or at least more than for others, is kind of useful, and you should or could build them if you have a purpose for them. So what do I mean? Let's start with the Bohemian class service ship. This is a terraformer, and it will raise the temperature for each planet by 1. Tiny cargo, tiny mass, but because of the tiny mass, and it has 2 engines, which is a little bit of a drawback, but you can build it with warp 6 engines, put on whatever beams you want, you can upgrade them later anyway, and look at that. Uranium, titanium, moly, and also mega credits. This ship is so cheap, right? And use those ships to increase the temperature of cold planets. Same goes for the Eros. It's the other ship in the arsenal, which just lowers the temperature. Basically, same thing. Low cargo, low mass. So every ship below a mass of 100, when it hits a mine, it will blow up and be destroyed instantly. Okay? Again, 2 engines, 2 beams. You can put crappy engines on that one and then, overdrive them, and that's it. You look at this also, minerals, mega credits, again, like the Bohemian, very cheap. So build those to lower temperatures of planets. And then the classic, which is the medium deep space fighter. I think it has a new, no, it has not. It has not a new design. I just look at the back of it. One of the most versatile cargo ships ever. Build those if you can. Again, look at this uranium, titanium, moly, and mega credits. It's like nothing. It has a cargo of 200 and a fuel of 250 and just 1 engine, right? So build lots of these. Then we have the Nebula class cruiser. This is a tech level 6 ship. But since you are going to build large deep space fighters anyway, you should have, the tech level shouldn't be an issue with the Federation. And this is a good mid-sized warship. It has a mass over 100, means it can sustain 1 minefield hit. It has a large crew, large cargo, and the fuel is also quite good. And engines 2, beams 4, launchers 4. And mineral wise, it's also not that heavy on minerals, right? So you can build these. A small trick here which you can do is you can build these, for example, without armament at all. If you want, you can just put no beams and no torpedo launchers on this ship, and it will show up on the scoreboard as a freighter. Couple of turns later, if you want, then you upgrade it and suddenly the freighter turns into a warship, right? But this is your powerhouse, your workhorse of your fleet. And because of the cargo, you can instantly build 116 torpedoes in a turn, because as you know, you need 1 mineral of each type plus the mega credit, so 350 divided by 3 is I think 116, and so you can every turn generate that many torpedoes and then also lay those minefields. Then the classic, everyone should have them, large deep space fighters. The only drawback of this ship is the uranium, which you lack at the start, but you should be able to get like 2-3 out of them. But since the Federation doesn't mine very good, yeah, you will run out of uranium pretty soon. So always aim to find a uranium planet, especially as Federation and also Molly. Again, large deep space fighter will be the same for all races. So cargo, best of the best 1200 and fuel 600, engines 2, build these. Next, Loki class destroyers. Tech level 8, however, again, mass slightly above 100, so will sustain 1 mine hit. But again, mineral wise, so cheap. A tech level 8 ship with these minerals and a tachyon device. It can decloak any cloaked ships within 10 light years. However, there are races which are immune, yeah, but we will come to that. Again, engines 2, beams 2, torpedoes 4. The cargo is small, and the fuel isn't also the greatest on this ship. Next one, Missouri. This is the kind of equivalent for the USS Enterprise of Picard. And it is quite heavy. I mean, it has a mass of 395, but that's not what I meant with heavy. It is heavy in mineral costs. This is almost the same amount of minerals you need for a rush. You have the advantage that it has only 2 engines, 8 beams and 6 torpedo launchers. The cargo is okayish, it's not the best. So again, 170 divided by 3, 50 is 56. You can build 56 torpedoes in a turn. But this is one of the hugest drawbacks. For a ship with this mass and this fuel, you can maybe, fly to 2 or 3 planets and then you always need to refuel. So this is a real drawback on the Missouri. So bear that in mind. If you build some of these, you need really lots of fuel. Then the next, this is a ship which is overlooked by many, is the Diplomacy. It's a tech level 9 ship and it has 6 beam weapons, 6 launchers. However, it will always lose against the Missouri. The reason for that is this, because of the mass. But if you look at the minerals, look at this. Look how cheap this ship is. It has even more fuel, and with this mass, it can fly, further than the Missouri. But this ship also has a drawback, which is the cargo. But still, every turn you can build 31 torpedoes with this ship and then, take some planets out. Then the Thor, also tech line, mass above 100, cargo small, again, fuel awful, really awful. And because of this mass, the ship also, it's good as a kind of sacrificial ship, because it can, with just 1 beam but 8 torpedo tubes, kind of drain the enemy shields so that later on the second wave of ships can kill them. Okay, but you can also build these. The only drawback also on this ship, it costs a little bit more on Molly, right? And even the Missouri is out of question. That's quite heavy. Then the Kitty Hawk, that's the only carrier the Federation has. Again, same mass like the Thor, 173, and that's not much actually. The fuel is okay, but the cargo is really bad. Really shitty cargo. The only good thing is it will launch fighters with its 6 fighter base as if it would have 9 fighter base. That's the reason, because you have the Federation crew bonus. So yes, you can also build these, but don't build too many, because, supplying 65 fighters will cost you 6,500 mega credits, right? But still, again, if you compare this with an instrumentality, which has like 4-7, but yeah, it has more mass, right? So then this ship is totally cheap. Totally cheap. So build these as well. Then neutronic refinery ship, we don't need to talk about this. You need to actually build at least 2 or 3 from these, because as a federation, and I think every federation player can relate, you will need fuel. So build a lot of neutronic refinery ships. Believe me, over the course of transporting money, flying ships around, you will run out of fuel. Good. Then, this is a new edition, and I'm seeing it heavily discussed in the forums, especially at Planets Flarum. Visit that. Between Koski, Tailspin, Sidev, Silk, and others. This ship is got a recent change, and it has like 30% more fuel efficiency. I haven't tested it yet, but you know, a large deep space freighter costs 85 and has only 2 engines. This one has 4 and costs 125. But titanium moly you can neglect, but it gets a cargo of 2,600. And I need to test this, and this will be in one of my newer games where I will try to play the Federation. I will try to build a couple of these super transport freighters early on, since I think with the money I have initially and maybe with the first planet, I can get away by getting 2 or 3 of these and then to see how they fare. Good. Then last but not least, it's the Nova. This is the strongest torpedo ship in the whole game. It is tech level 10. It has a nice mass. Cargo is good. Fuel is also very good, but you also need that fuel because with that mass, I mean, the robot ships have all above 900 kilotons of fuel, right? But this one, you also will see once you play with that, these things consume fuel like nothing, really. So yeah, it has 10 beams, 10 launchers, and look at the minerals. It's enormous, gigantic. Every rush is cheaper, but we will discuss this in a second. So this is the strongest torpedo ship in the game. It will beat, I think, barely the Annihilation because of the quantum torpedoes. It will kill all Lizard ships. It will kill also all Birdman ships, you know. So this is great, but this ship loses against any carrier. Okay. Then we have the Merlin class alchemy ship. You also need to build these. So again, also one more comment, build also Novas, right? But not too many. You will see why. The Merlin, as I said, you will need it because of your mining rate. You will need also 1 or 2 of these because at some point of time, whilst refitting, so as good as refit is on the paper, the problem with this, with the Federation is, you build early stuff, and then later on, every engine, like Transwarp, costs you 35 molly. And since almost every ship has 2 engines, you will need then 70 molly per ship. And if you want to refit, let's say 10 ships, that's again 700 molly, just for 10 ships. And you know, the list goes on and on. Then if you have heavy phasers, same thing, right? Okay, what else? Yeah, and now let's do a kind of comparison. So there's a great tool out there, which is from Whisperer. It's one of his famous scripts. And this is the planets.nu ship calculator. So what you can do is, and you have probably seen that in one of my other videos, put in the race and then a ship you want with the configuration and then see what it costs, etc. Okay. Now let's have a look at the following table here, which I've just created. So this is a Nova. This is the Tech 10 ship of the Federation. And this is how it looks on paper, right? It says it has 4 engines and the hull itself costs 240 uranium, this amount of titanium, moly, and mega credits, okay? The sum of the minerals is 933. Okay, so all of these 3 end up with 933 kilotons. What I did now is I have created a low configuration for the Federation which is like Haltech 10 for the Nova, obviously, then X-rays and Mark IV torpedoes. And then with the help of this script, which you have just seen from Whisperer, you can then see the numbers, how much the ship configuration costs. So with X-rays, 10 X-rays and Mark IV torpedoes, this ship would already increase the number of minerals by roughly by 300. And as you can see, just by having a look, you need 100 more uranium, titanium almost the same, but moly, you need like 50% more moly here. The mid configuration is for me something like, you know, disruptors and Mark VII torpedoes, and this should be actually an 8. Sorry for that. And then again, uranium from the hull itself almost doubles. Titanium, on the other hand, almost stays the same. And moly goes up a little bit, right? But again, increase from here to here 300, increase from here to here 200. And if you go for the heavy phaser build, this is this one, and quantum torpedoes, then you end up with the same amount of uranium actually, titanium almost negligible, but now look what happens. The torpedoes, 2 quantum torpedoes here from Mark VII, and disruptors to heavy phasers result in this jump in moly. So you need 1,130 moly for this ship, yielding 2,000 kilotons of minerals, which you need for a single ship. And if you remember, I hope I'm getting these right, you need 120 uranium, 402 titanium, and 340 moly, and 900 mega credits for a base. And look at that. So you need more uranium, or like 3-4 times more, and like 3 times. So this is like 2.5 star bases if you want. And this is this ship. So this is the configuration of the Nova. All right, now let's have a look why the Nova is actually a really bad ship. If you compare it to a Rush, so this is the Rebel carrier. On paper it looks like this, and you already see one difference. So the sum of minerals of the Rush is lower, although it has more engines. And for the sake of it, I always thought these are transwarp engines, okay? It has 5 beam weapons and 10 fighter bays. Also here, mass is almost the same, crew is almost the same, cargo is almost the same, but the fuel, already a difference. Why does the Nova have only 500, whereas the Rush has 1,550? Yeah, I don't know. So if I would rebalance, I would already give the Nova more fuel, maybe 700-800 here, and also reduce the minerals a little bit. But okay, fine. Now with carriers, you don't have much which you can configure besides the engines and the beams. So I just took, okay, you can put an X-rays on it, disruptors, or heavy phasers. Now if you see the sum of minerals, it goes up from 655 to, this is the normal configuration with transwarp, to 984. And also mega credits wise, look, the Rush costs a little bit more, but minerals wise less. Next one, the Nova mid configuration with Mark VII torps costs more mega credits and beats this. But mineral wise, look at this, the gap is getting larger. So here's plus 400. And then obviously because of the heavy phaser tech here, right, you end up here with 1,319 minerals and here 1,979. Now if I add or take 2 of these, low config versus one high-end 10-10-10 ship, I can build 2 Rushs, right? And still be almost in the same range of mega credits, a little bit less. And mineral-wise, also almost the same, you know? It's like 1,000, let's see, 968, I guess, right? So I can build 2 Rushs instead of a Nova with high end if I have them with low end configuration, but with transwarp engines. Now mineral wise, I said low Rush versus mid Nova, so I compared this with this ship. So the Rush costs this much less, and if you compare the low Rush versus the high end, so this low configuration is this configuration, you will see that it costs a lot less. Now, why am I showing you this? The reason is the following. If you simulate a nova, and I have the Solar Federation crew bonus here, heavy phaser quantum torps against a rush with X-rays, look what happens. And this is by far one of the saddest things ever. And if we stop this, yeah, fair amount, but if we click on the results, the nova always loses. Doesn't matter if you swap sides, results, the nova always loses. So regardless, and seeing that and seeing what a rush costs and what kind of damage a rush can do, this is just utterly the reason why the Federation ranks fairly not so high on the scoreboard. And now you might say, yeah, okay, so in a one-to-one battle, that's right, but this ship can also sweep mines, right? And especially with heavy phasers, and can be super refitted, you know, it can do that later. And also it can lay mines, what a carrier can't. So that is true, right? So you just can't directly just have a look at certain criteria and then say it's like this. But since the Federation also have a mining disadvantage, so although all the other ships are so cheap to build, look at this diplomacy. And I think there's a game which I have recorded where you see a really good Federation player. He just starts building only diplomacies because of this. It's a mid-size good ship, and he can then afford to build 2 of these and then kill an instrumentality with them, right? Instead of building these huge novas all the time, which run out of fuel, and same for the Missouri. Okay, now one more thing before we end up this short introduction. So 10 minutes is, I think, too low. I will call this 20-minute guides. So for the Federation, why you can still play the Federation, let's first of all have a look again at pros and cons. From my point of view, they have lots of money, and with that they can lay lots of minefields. The economy is really good, and almost every ship is useful. They also have bioscanners. However, that's a tech level 7 ship, and 20%. I never built these actually. They have Loki detection, although it's not that good because many races have like immunity. But they are, for example, the natural enemies of the privateers because, yeah, and Klingons. So the Federation can decloak them. They have temperature ships. So their planets in their area, colonies grow good and in large amounts, and you get more and more, also from the natives, mega credits. They have quantum torpedoes. The Federation crew bonus is good with the shields, but we will see that later again. Most ships are cheap to build, and they have a cloning advantage over others. Now, what does that mean? The Federation would like to trade any ship with any other race, especially if those ships have certain capabilities. For example, Superstar Destroyer. Who doesn't want to have them? Because planet immunity you can drop. Meteor class blockade runners. Great. Yeah, double, distance to fly, and so on. But what does that cloaking advantage mean? Well, it means if you get the hands on let's say a cloaking ship, you can ask the other player to give you a really, really crappy build. Warp 4 engines, X-rays only, no torpedoes. That's it. The fun part is you can very easily clone those ships and then refit them later. So you have a cloning advantage. It is so easy for a Federation to, outperform all others if it gets the hand early on something really, really strong. For example, you get a Gorby, a biocide, whatever carrier you have, with Warp 1 engines from the other players. Then you clone that and then later on refit it to transwarp later, and then fly around. And you can then even build more than the original player because, you know, every Transwarp engine costs 300 mega credits. A Rush has 6 engines. So it's all out of the box, 1,800 mega credits already for a Rush. And if I have like Warp 1 engines, the Federation just laughs at it and clones the ship, right? You still need the minerals, but we have seen the Rush costs less minerals than the Nova. So what you are going to try is to gain your hands on other ships. Then we continue. You have many light ships. You can outmaneuver the opponents. You can, you know, diplomacies, you have kitties, you have nebulas, whatever. So you are quite like maneuverable. Yeah, your ships can fly everywhere and they're quite strong actually. A diplomacy with 6 beam weapons and 6 torpedoes, yeah, kills almost any planet without a starbase, right? Yeah, it will lose to a instrumentality, but an instru costs more, and you can like build 2 of them. 2 of them with quantum torps will take care of the instru. Good. Then they are overall a really great ally to have. Every time, but again, this is a two-folded sword. You need a good player to be to ally up. Okay, you need a lot of talking, a lot of alignment, but then you can also, that other player, let's say it's a carrier race, or it's even, you know, the privateers, don't care. Many races lack money. You can give them money, right? And at the same time, you can clone. And then you can refit them, those ships. Also, the ships of the ally. Yes, you heard it. You can refit them, right? I mean, can't remember if he does need to give them to you and then you refit. But you can have a base in his area, right? And then you say, okay, and from time to time fly ships over, supply me with the stuff, and I will just refit it. Now, as I said, not only can you have a cloning advantage, but you can have the strongest carrier in the game with the Fed crew bonus. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, the Federation has a Kitty Hawk. Yeah, but let's say you get a biocide. Trade it, and you play with the cyborg. What happens now is the Fed crew bonus gives 3 additional fighters to any carrier you own. So the biocide doesn't fight actually with 10 beams and 10 fighter base. No, it fights with 10 beams and 13 fighter base. Okay? So, and then on paper, bio versus bio, your bio would always win. And if you get a Gorby, then you have the strongest ship in the whole game. Still, a drawback, and we need to add that here, needs to buy fighters. Yes. Okay. Then also, Nova with quantum torpedoes wins versus every starbase. Yes, you can lose a Rush, a biocide, even heck a Gorby against a fully defended starbase, but a Nova with quantum torpedoes actually wins against every starbase. Good to know, right? So you are one of those races, like also Hordes of Fury and the Rebels, who with their immunity and their plundering in RGA can windmill those bases down, or maybe lizards can drop them and Klingons as well. But you are, besides that, the only ones which can kill those star bases. Okay, cons. 70% mining rate, you always need fuel. Missouri, bad fuel tank, and also costs a lot of minerals actually for the firepower it has. Not a fan of that. Nova costs too much in terms of minerals, and Nova loses against all other carriers, high-level ones. You don't have any cloakers, and you need to buy fighters, and they are expensive. So even with the money you have, yeah, this is this. Then what to trade? Ships the Federation wants. You definitely, as almost every other race, want Firecloud class cruisers. Okay? Those can open a channel and then you suddenly have all your ships at the front. This is a no-brainer. Almost every race wants to have them. This is a cyborg ship. Okay. Then what you would like to trade are carriers. Any kind of carrier, you don't care. Rush, Virgo, Golem, Automa, Biocide, Instru, whatever you want. Even a Cybernaut, I would opt for. Why? I think the Cybernaut has 3 beam weapons and 5 I can't really remember, 5 fighter rays, and in your hands it will, you know, fight with 8, and it has like 395 kilotons of mass. Obviously, you want Meteor class blockade runners. Meteor class blockade runners. But every race wants to have them. One of the best, if not besides the Firecloud class cruiser, best ship in the game. Then one I have forgotten. If you can get the hands on them, you want kobolds. These are the ships from the colonies, because these generate fuel. Again, you can refit. Cool thing is, they generate fuel. Your ship needs a lot of fuel, and they have a bioscanner and you can refit. Nice cargo, what else you want? Then, as said before, you want any kind of cloaker with torpedo tubes. Again, shitty configuration, and then you clone. And then just the usual stuff. If you can get a hand on a Falcon, yeah, sure. Trade in arrows with a Falcon, great. Clone them, and then you can jump to the front and provide, you know, let's say, hype ships. You always want. Then, the last thing, game progression. Many players are like, what should I build early, mid, and late game? And what are my preferred natives? Now, early, the standard ones is large deep space fighters, Nebula, Eros, Bohemian, and MDSF. That's it. You don't need anything else. Okay? Again, the super transport fighter is something I need to test. I took that up. I am not sure yet how it will fare with the 70% mining rate and the whooping uranium it needs, but maybe it's good enough since it has the cargo of 2 large deep space fighters, right? So maybe this is good, not sure yet. So take this with a grain of salt here. Then mid, diplomacies, definitely. You can't have enough diplomacies. Build diplomacies as you can. And also nebulas, obviously, because you always have a mission for those. Missouris, Kitty Hawks, and Thors. Although Missouri, Kitty Hawk, Thor, not the best, honestly. And in the mid game, you start building alchemy ships, the Merlins, and the neutronic refinery ship. Late game, your fleet should consist of diplomacies, Missouri, Kitty Hawk, Taurus, Nova, and here I will say plus carriers from other races, if you can get them. Preferred natives, I think in this order for me would be like this. First of all, you want humanoids, and reason is you can, because of the refit, you get tech level 10 for free, and then you can build empty Nova hulls, empty Missouri hulls, empty whatever, right? And then later upgrade them. Then Gypsodial, obviously tech 10 engines. Bovinoid, because you need the supplies, and the supplies will be converted to minerals because you have a bad mining rate. And last but not least, insectoids, because here, you know, you get not only 2 times money, but because they also give 2 times, you get 4 times the money. Yeah, so these are your go-to planets here you want to find and colonize. And obviously, right, siliconoids also good, tech level 8 and so on, but and beam weapons you don't necessarily need that much, but amphibians, but okay, fine, right? Good. So let's wrap it up. This was half an hour. It was a little bit longer, and I try to get the race guides down to 20 to 25 minutes per race in this format. So this Excel sheet will grow over time. We're going to analyze always the ship list and the overview, how to play the races, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and yeah, that is it, I would say. So thanks for watching, and Gigaschatten over and out.